Welcome back to the news at 10. Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC is a leading indigenous Nigerian oil and gas exploration and production company and operator of the NNPC Seplat joint venture. As part of its corporate social responsibility, the company has launched the inaugural edition of its free medical services for communities situated in the operational area of its eastern assets in Imo State.
A woman led by the hand because of visual impairment, one of the targets of a free medical outreach by Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC in Imo State. She and many others are beneficiaries of the medical outreach of Seplat called I Can See and Safe Motherhood for eye and maternal care. At the venue in Izombe community are the indigents, traditional rulers, government functionaries who are gathered here for the event. As the Chief Executive Officer of Seplat Petroleum Development Company, Austin Avuru, highlights the role of host communities.
The communities are as important to us as governments that gave us the license to operate, as important to us as the shareholders of the company.
Another official sheds more light on the medical outreach.
We brought two key products that have to do with the health, the I Can See program and the Safe Motherhood program. And it's accessible to different people in the community, both men, women, children, and pregnant women.
Commending the gesture, the wife of the governor of Imo State, Mrs. Nkechi Okorocha, describes it as a step in the right direction.
Seplat, from what the MD had said, is an oil company that also has a listening ear. It's an oil company that also believes and understands that the owners of the land must be carried along.
Most of these people here who are beneficiaries of this program today cannot truly afford this eye test, neither can they afford operations. So what they have done today needs to be copied by most corporate organizations.
The beneficiaries in the community have nothing but good words for Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC.
When I came here, I see what's happened, and it motivates me to come and join others.
Formed in June 2009, Seplat Petroleum Development Company is a leading indigenous oil and gas exploration and production company with a strategic focus on Nigeria, listed on the main market of the London Stock Exchange and the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
The Kogi state government is on the threshold of a new direction as it hosts top government executives and investors to its first ever investment summit in Lokoja, the state capital. During the opening ceremony, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, unveiled the federal government's vision for Kogi State's solid minerals. Our correspondent, Temple Ashaju, reports.
The first edition of Kogi State Investment Summit is coming at a time that crude oil price, Nigeria's economic driver, is struggling to return to its pride of place for the nation. And with economic diversification now the order of the day, it's time to explore the various industrialization potentials of Kogi State, which boasts of no fewer than 29 solid minerals in commercial deposits.
Everybody wants us to talk about Ajaokuta. A technical audit of the entire plant is going on as I speak to you. Should we look for people who are prepared to sink resources into it and then make the place work for Kogi and for Nigeria? That's the question we need to ask ourselves and answer.
For the Vice President Yemi Oshibajo, the state's recognition of the federal government's scheme of things is not misplaced, as he highlights latest interventions and unveiled more plans.
Thank you very much. Please. I'm here today with heads of government agencies that are important in granting approvals and licenses to small businesses, such as NAFDAC, SON, Corporate Affairs Commission, Bank of Industry, FIRS, and even SMEDAN. They will interact with owners of small businesses with a view to resolving their problems with registration or pre-investment approvals. We're also planning to set up a one-stop office here, which will have NAFDAC, SON, and other regulatory agencies permanently stationed in Kogi State.
The host and state governor Yahaya Bello headlines existing industrial landmarks, but looks to harness the state's potentials with collaborations.
We need to break down the barriers of what has been holding us down in harnessing these potentials and making it a reality. And these barriers are ethnicity, religion, and class difference.
Want to inspire and...
The opening ceremony for the two-day summit ends with Governor Bello signing 2 memoranda of understanding with some foreign investors.
Coverage, you have been watching the Kogi State Economic and Investment Summit.
A lot is expected of this summit, which the citizens and investors, domestic and foreign, look forward to chart a new course for the internal revenue generation strategies of Kogi State. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
Let's take a look at some more business news now. Here's Emana Hamawe. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Central Bank of Nigeria has asked lawmakers to enact regulations to stop the operation of unlicensed financial service institutions, otherwise called shell banks, in the country. The request was made by the governor of the CBN, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, today in Abuja at a public hearing organized by the House Committee on Banking and Currency on a bill to amend the Banking and Other Financial Institutions Act and other bills. Mr. Emefiele says apart from being used for money laundering, shell banks distort the banking system and could become a problem for financial regulators. The CBN is also seeking additional powers to revoke licenses of banks as well as inject funds into failing banks by the way of equity participation. And Nigeria's Debt Management Office plans to auction 100 billion naira worth of bonds on February the 21st. The DMO says it would sell 50 billion naira in bonds maturing in July 2021 at 14.50% and 50 billion naira bonds to mature in February 2028 with no set interest rate. The July 2021 bond is a reopening of previous issues, while the February 2028 bond is a new 10-year issue. Nigeria issues sovereign bonds monthly to support the domestic bond market, finance its budget deficit, and create a benchmark for corporate issuance. The federal government plans to borrow for budget support, or the federal government's plans to borrow for budget support externally is now one of the key drivers for increase in mutual funds locally. This trend is evident in the official admittance of 3 of Stanbic IBTC's mutual funds by the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange in Lagos.
Dollar funds, probably, but more so dollar investment in products. So what you have is, because of maybe lack of proper information, adequate information, I think maybe it's possible that people don't necessarily know that they could invest their dollars that are in DOM accounts in some of these products to at least earn a higher yield. So it's our hope that this listing would help, publicize that a bit more.
If you look at the assets under management, so prior to now, we've struggled in the volume of money under management compared to what the potential is. The potential is huge. We are barely scratching the surface. But in the last 12 months, 18 months, the story has improved. In fact, the assets under management has practically doubled for the industry now. And the interest rate regime, of course, largely supported that.
Let's flip over to the local bourse, where stocks have remained under sell pressure for a 7th straight session, as more profit-taking pushes the all-share index to its highest drop in 5 months. Layo Adegoke has more.
Many thanks for joining us on the Stock Market Report. The NSE All-Share Index plunged by 2.41% below the 42,000 level as more profit-taking pulled the equities capitalization below the 15 trillion naira mark. The massive load share, which marks the 7th straight decline, is attributed to sell-offs across all 5 major sectors of the market. Tuesday's session recorded a total of 40 decliners, led by Prestige Assurance, Skybank, and Hallmark Insurance, while AG Leventis, Virgin Paints and Eternal Oil topped a list of 14 gainers. Diamond Bank, FCMB and Fidelity Bank are the top 3 most actively traded stocks for the day, from 470.52 million units. And that's the stock market report. I am Layo Adegoke.
In the meantime, major stock markets across the globe closed today's session with mixed sentiments as bank and tech shares lift the Dow Jones higher, while Asian bourses recorded their second day of gains, tracking Wall Street. Here are snapshots of the closing numbers. And that's business news tonight. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Imana Amawe. It's back to you, Joma. Thanks a lot, Imana. The enhancement of productivity, accountability and transparency in governance can only be achieved through the devolution of powers. Now, that was the submission by panelists at the 6th Anniversary Public Lecture, which held in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, South Nigeria. At the lecture, titled Restructuring, the Way Forward for Nigeria, they also agreed that Nigeria needs a fundamental reconfiguration of state and national architecture.
Government officials, security chiefs, traditional rulers and the general public fill this hall. They are here for the 6th Anniversary Public Lecture. The topic centers on restructuring as the path to Nigeria's progress. Restructuring means different things to different people, but everyone can agree that it would involve the engagement of all the parties concerned.
Restructuring in a democratic polity requires substantial elite buy-in and compliance. Restructuring can never take place in the consensus of elite separately and warmongering, unless we are ready to settle matters on the field of battle. Democratic restructuring requires elite pact and intense negotiation on the give and take basis.
Panelists drawn from the different geopolitical zones in the country addressed their fears about the concept of restructuring.
There is this general impression that the North is totally against restructuring. Some of us are not comfortable with these languages. The call for restructuring is not about breaking the country or secessionist. Now I begin to become more comfortable to discuss.
Restructuring has nothing to do with secession. The greatest basis for unity in Nigeria is Nigeria's large market.
In the Bayelsa governor's opinion, those who champion the cause of restructuring are the real patriots, since for him, it means a stronger nation.
Those in support of restructuring are those in support of constitutional amendment to redress the imbalances in our nation are indeed believers in the Nigerian project.
The question of restructuring is one that has been on the front burner for a long time. And citizens and watchers from all walks of life continue to clamor for a viable answer that might move the nation forward.
And so it gives me